Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports, taking you up to 2 p.m. And we are very grateful to be joined by Jared Weiss, who covers the NBA for The Athletic, covered the Celtics for years and years, and still covers the Celtics, but is now covering all of the Eastern Conference. Jared, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
It's great to be here with you.
Jared, let's start here. Watched the Thunder and Cavs game last night, and the Cavs are rolling. I mean, I did shows in the summer thinking the Cavs were going to blow it up. There was if he stays and I'm going, the Darius Garland thing, Donovan Mitchell, was he going to stay or not? They get Kenny Atkinson, and they've been rolling. Are the Celtics blinking at all at what the Cavs are doing? Are they a bit surprised about what the Cavs are doing, or is it still, if you want to be the champs, you got to beat the champs? We're not really too worried about the Cavs yet.
I don't think they're blinking at the Cavs. I think they're blinking when they look in the mirror and they see the way that they've been playing over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Obviously, things are turning around for them on this road trip that they've been on and they're getting back home from. They've been playing pretty well for the most part. But the Celtics are shooting poorly. A few of their guys are just not playing at the same level as they did last year. And so their issue is themselves. It's not Cleveland. Cleveland has been amazing this year. They're the best team in the NBA. There are still a few things about the way they played that I wonder if it will work at an Eastern Conference Finals level. Yeah. But they've been pretty much perfect this year. But for the Celtics, it's really about themselves.
Talking to Jared Weiss, who covers the NBA for The Athletic. Jared, I had to get your thoughts on this, and it just popped into my head. I didn't even have this question written down. The Brandon Jennings thing and Jason Tatum, the softest Celtics superstar. You've been around that team for a long time. Do you think any of this gets to Jason Tatum? He's been dealing with this for a very long time. I think in classic, and I'm air quoting, Jason Tatum fashion, he doesn't get the finals MVP. Everyone tries to essentially downplay who he is. So I feel like he's a bit used to it, but you start using the word soft and you get the championship, and he's just maybe tired of he gets, not playing on Team USA, maybe just tired of dealing with it. Not sure how close you know Jason Tatum, but how do you think he's actually taking kind of the same thing over and over again? I'd be tired of it. I'll tell you that much right now.
Well, we have a very clear answer on the Brandon Jennings part because he just posted to his Instagram like a softest player Celtics history thing. So he took a direct shot at Brandon Jennings, and then Brandon Jennings did the classic oh, I talk crap about you. Now I'm going to pretend like I'm your boy and I'm going to come check you. It's so ridiculous when people do that stuff. But Tatum is such a unique. He has a very unique career because. These days, we don't see what's basically happening to him. It's really similar to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, where they came into the NBA and were immediately in title contention situations. And those two are two of the greatest of all time because they came to the league, and obviously they came to the league later than Tatum came in. Tatum came in as a 19-year-old. Right. Those guys were a little bit older, but they were immediately championship caliber players. It did stuff that just doesn't happen in the NBA anymore. And so Tatum is in this weird situation where within a couple years of his career, he was already being disappointing expectations because he wasn't already that level of player by the age of 22. And so I don't think he got credit for being a top 5 player in the league or top 7 player in the league until maybe a year or two ago. And I think he's been maybe a little bit frustrated of what do I have to do? Win a championship to prove that I'm one of those best players? And then, of course, he did that. And so it was, we've done a few one-on-ones over the last year or so where he's talked about this, about where he sees himself and where he thinks people see him. And, he felt like if he wanted to really be truly looked at as a top 5 player, all he could do at that point was win a championship. And I do think that happened. And so there was some irony to the whole benching situation in the Olympics. And while we also had a one-on-one about that at The Athletic, and he talked about how that really affected him, I looked at it as just look at the roster, look at the matchup. Those are matchups against Serbia, who has Jokic, and they just needed to prioritize some bigs there. And I think Tatum looks at himself as well, I'm the guy who it doesn't matter what happens, you have to play me. But then it's well, there's Kevin Durant and LeBron, all that kind of stuff. So I think in reality, Tatum, I think accurately recognizes that he's the top 5 player in the NBA, and he's not number 1. Whether that's Jokic, whether that's Giannis, whether that is Shea. There's probably other people I'm forgetting that you could put in that category. Maybe Luka when he's fully healthy.
Right.
He might not be that guy. And part of that is that he isn't tasked with being that guy. Like Jokic, the reason why Jokic is MVP, it's not just that he's so unbelievable, but also that he is so unbelievably intimately involved in the way his team operates. And that's never been the task for Tatum. The team isn't built that way. And part of that is because Tatum can't quite do all of that kind of stuff. But if you're looking at a well-rounded player who's complete and does everything, you'd probably say he's number one on that list in the league, right? Considering his defense, his 3-level scoring. There's nobody in the league right now that is as complete in every single aspect of the game as he is. It doesn't mean he's the best player in the league, but it does mean he's probably the most complete player in the league.
Yeah, Jared, it reminds me of De'Aaron Fox a little bit because his usage just with having Sabonis is never going to be as high as the guys you talked about in SGA and Luka and dudes like that. So him trying to get to that all NBA category, it can be a little bit tougher, and you got to win games, which the Celtics don't have a problem doing that. Speaking of that, Jared, I get confused with the Celtics because a lot of people, it's this fun thing now that NBA fans and NBA haters are doing. Anything that the NBA does, people will say that's why the ratings are down. But I do find it interesting that the Celtics, I see them in some of the worst clips of NBA basketball where it's just a bunch of teams chucking threes back and forth and nobody's hitting threes, but they're the defending champs. Are the Celtics a weird embodiment of what people think is wrong with the NBA because everybody kind of wants to be the Celtics, but the Celtics, they play a lot of defense, which, the haters won't talk about that, but they shoot so many threes as well, and some nights they just don't go down?
Well, the Celtics, at least last year and still for the most part this year, their strength, it was that they had some pretty good principles they stuck to, which is like they cut out just a lot of the mediocre shots value-wise, and they turned those into three. And they're mostly organic. They don't force threes that badly most of the time, but they do get into those ruts. And then they're also very, very versatile. Like the big thing with the Celtics is people keep saying that they're just a three-point shooting team because really they're the way that they run, the playbook that they use, who's doing what, it changes every night based on their matchups.
Right.
Like they can play post-up style, pick and roll style. They can play having guys cutting out of the corners. Like there's a bunch of different ways that they operate that they're not quite as like you can't really pin them down the way that you can pin down a few other teams with the way that they operate. There's a lot of variety to them, which is what made them so unbelievably good last year. And I think the ratings thing, I mean, sure, maybe people are getting a little tired of three-point shooting, but also you go watch young kids play at the gym, and like when I go to my gym, a lot of the time there's like teenagers playing.
Right.
They're chucking threes.
Yeah.
So what, you telling me that they're not watching because there's too many threes? That's what they're doing. I think ratings are probably going down because one, it seems like they don't capture the way that young people watch the games nowadays. There's a variety of streaming methods. There's a variety of non-legal streaming methods. The NBA's audience is significantly overseas, and I'm not really sure how much that gets captured into ratings. And then also, like the main post-game shows, the faces of this league, are very negative and reductive when it comes to talking about the game. Like you have inside the NBA where like Chuck and Shaq are just constantly rejecting the way that the modern game is played, and they're not. Kenny's the one that's doing all the breakdowns because two of the guys don't seem like they really watch the games closely. So I think you compare it to like NFL coverage or Premier League coverage, which is what I watch a lot of, and there's so much technical analysis. There's so much embracing the way that the game is evolving and all that stuff. And I feel like the NBA's major broadcast, the post-game shows and analysis shows don't seem to lean into that the way that the other leagues do.
Jared Weiss, great stuff. Jared, before I get you out of here, just give me your outside perspective from what you've seen, because obviously you don't just cover the Celtics, you cover all of the Eastern Conference, and with this name being thrown around, give me your outside perspective on De'Aaron Fox and how you value De'Aaron Fox and how you view De'Aaron Fox and just the Sacramento Kings, the state of the Sacramento Kings right now.
I mean, I see De'Aaron Fox as one of the complementary stars to a championship caliber team. You put him on a team with a wing scorer, and sky seems to be the limit for him. And I mean, I like what Sacramento has pieces wise. They just don't have enough guys having like good complete seasons at the same time. But I mean, a big thing that Doug Christie is doing is Keon Ellis has been starting, and
Right.
Keon Ellis has been one of the most underrated players in the NBA over the last 10 months or something like that. And we're seeing now he's got all defense potential here. He's shooting his spot up threes well. Like there's still more to mine with this Kings team to see what they can put together. But obviously there's still some roster moves away from being a team that could really contend. And the timeline with Fox, it doesn't seem to be lining up. And that's why it seems like there's a lot of writing on the wall. A lot of people around the Kings are saying that it might be time for Fox and the Kings to part ways. So we'll see. But I really like what they can do in theory if everybody can make it work.
Jared Weiss, thank you so much for joining. Be sure to check out all of Jared's work on The Athletic. We have to have you on again, Jared. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Jared Weiss, who covers the NBA for The Athletic, all of the Eastern Conference, but he's covered the Celtics for a very, very long time. I didn't get a chance to ask him what the Celtics' weakness is, but it sounds like just hope they miss. That's what it sounds like the weakness is for the Boston Celtics, and we will know more after tomorrow night. When we return, the Sacramento Kings are looking to break a long drought on Friday. Speaking of those Boston Celtics, we'll tell you how bad that drought is on the other side. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.